It's been years since this building rocked and rolled to the sound of such legendary San Francisco bands as Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, and Quicksilver Messenger Service. This is the old Avalon Ballroom, and young people would go upstairs here to party on the weekend. Warner Brothers Records president Joe Smith came here one time in formal clothes. He and his wife were coming from an elegant dinner party, and he wanted to check out a rowdy new group he had signed, the Grateful Dead.
Those of us who were riding through this, every day was a new experience. And my going to the Fillmore Ballroom, the Avalon Ballroom in San Francisco to sign the Grateful Dead and seeing people painting each other's bodies and light shows and incense and lying on the floor and these interminably long jams with the Grateful Dead was something I'd never seen before. But I realized, as Mo Austin realized, my partner and any one of us who were involved in it back then, Clive Davis or Ahmet Ertegun, that this was something different. Yeah.
Smith later moved from Warner's to Elektra and found a new team of artists waiting.
I had given myself a few assignments when I got to Elektra Asylum, and one of them was to break Jackson Browne wide open.
One evening in 1966, this skinny 17-year-old Orange County kid persuaded some friends of mine in a local band to listen to his songs. And that music really blew us all away. The kid's name? Jackson Browne.
I find it hard to find, things to talk about in songs. I mean, maybe it's that I'm not easily satisfied with. It's not easy to write. For me, it's not easy to write words, and it's, I've got a lot of music I like, but it's difficult to satisfy myself.
By the 1970s, Jackson's star rose. Unfortunately, so did his cocaine use.
One of the things that it afforded was that that's a way of shutting out the rest of the world. And it'd be wrong to use the word focus, since that gets shot right away. Mm-hmm. But it's in a way it helps you focus on whatever's in front of you, nothing else. I mean, you can't really change that focus, which would be part of the creative needs, is to change your focus and to be able to focus on this now, and let's go over and look at this. I think the people who are really best at it now are people who are really good at doing that. And you can't do that if you're high, because your focus is locked.
Tender is the night when you hold your baby tight.
As Jackson sang his way into the 1980s, he stopped doing drugs, and he found some solid anchors in parenthood and social activism.
Your values change. They're shaped by your experience, and there are some things hopefully you started out with that are true and remain true.
Tender are the hunters, tender is the night.
I didn't seek stardom, you know what I mean? So I wasn't as glad as some when it arrived. I kind of rejected it. As you know, I beat a hasty retreat.
Joni Mitchell was a nearby neighbor and a good pal to me in 1968. She had a lovely little wood frame house with colored glass bottles in the windows, Joni's own paintings on the wall, and music in the air.
And she's so busy being free. So my 20s, which played against the background of a very troubled society anyway. Love and peace was a nice idea, but as you recall, it was an idea being born out of terrible tumult, and confusion. And my 30s was a kind of a flowering. I started coming out of my shell, regaining a sense of humor from the very serious situation that I found myself in my 20s. And my 40s, I like very much. I feel more full-flavored.
Tour of 1969 was the Rolling Stones trek across America. Burly bodyguards were keeping over-anxious fans and photographers away, but it was still the 60s, and our intrepid home movie maker bluffed his way on stage to film Mick Jagger up close.
Stayed out of the way, which was the most important thing I learned how to do when I was shooting pictures on the stage. You could walk around on a stage during a show without any kind of credential on or anything. You knew somebody knew you were okay, and that was it. There was a fearless sense of musical adventure in the 60s that some folks find harder to come by these days.
I'm not really, I miss being 25. I mean, I know that I'm missing something somewhere. You know? Something just isn't clunky clunking like it used to, you know? But it's still there. I still feel the energy and the feeling.
Musicians infected with the rock and roll fever still can't get it out of their system.
I've always loved music, and even when I didn't think it would be possible to earn a living doing it. We were just not young and naive and thinking that we could actually change everything the way we thought it should be. And I'm not saying we didn't make any changes. We made a lot of good changes, I think, but it wasn't as total a change as we thought we were doing.
We are stardust. I mean, you're always growing and changing. You know, new tributaries running into the old work. Sure. I'm as keen as I ever was with it.
Sweet Sir Galahad came in through the window.
Music can also be an atmosphere for numbing out. And there's been an awful lot of numbing out for the last at least 10 years.
Tender are the motions, tender is the night when you hold.
There's new music all the time, and basically rock has become, I don't think it's as rebellious, as revolutionary a thing as it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And, you know, I mean, a lot of it's just outright big business, just good old, you know, fashion American marketing, you know, and consumer, you know, technology.
If you don't mind heating your river.
And I think the musicians bought the lifestyle rather than continuing to be absolutely amazed by the music. You have to the music has to be the primary thing, otherwise you're going to get turned around somewhere.
It's like doing architecture without having to study all the numbers and stuff, but you're like building things, and they sort of have to work. And if they don't work, they're down on one side, and everybody says that really sucks, or that's really good.
So you break away from the rules, and very often you find yourself with something that's interesting enough to make people listen.
It's like another perfect day. I love LA.
I have to labor getting in there to actually do the work, and then some songs are very easy where you write it and you can see the end of it right at the beginning, and it'll write itself in not much longer than 2 or 3 minutes the song is, and some are very difficult. Rock and roll is crystallized in some ways. I mean, we know what it is, and there's these 3 chords, and there's a few more, and it's a guitar, but you hear new stuff all the time.
It's rewarding. It's just rewarding because you are, you're realizing a lot of the things that you'd hope to realize when you were a teenager, strumming away on your first chords on your red electric guitar, But music is such that it goes on teaching you lessons all the time, goes on reminding you of what an insignificant thing that you are, and how much more there is all the time to it.
Damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a pistol on your little finger. Maybe get a pistol.
The 60s gave birth to West Coast music festivals. Before Woodstock, there was Monterey Pop. And before Monterey Pop, there were the Big Sur Folk Festivals. Vosse and his camera were at 2 of those gatherings.
started 1964 as a party, you know, as a way to get together and have a party. Didn't have a heavy folk orientation or heavy political direction as much as it had, let's get together.
Smile on your brother, everybody get together, come on love.
By 1968, that party had gotten pretty big, and it drew lots of top folk and rock performers. In fact, over the next 2 years, the lineup included Mimi Farina, her sister Joan Baez, Arlo Guthrie, Judy Collins, Steve Stills and David Crosby, who came as a duo in '68, and by the next year they'd become Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and the whole bunch of them came back. Then there was John Sebastian and the Loving Spoonful, and two of my favorites, Joni Mitchell and Mama Cass Elliot.
It was certainly a very, very special event. I mean, it just, everything fell in place, and there was no struggle about it. That's what was amazing.
In '68, the festival opened with Mimi and Mylan's wedding. Scott Beach performed the ceremony, and stars were gathered all over the lawn of the Esalen Institute in the fog. And just as the bride and groom kissed, the sun broke through. The couple just sparkled like fairy tale royalty. It was quite a match. Here was Mimi, the pacifist folkie, and Mylan, the former FBI stringer from East Oakland who had gotten turned on by the very people he was sent to spy on. He really seemed a combination, kind of consummate hip capitalist and Hell's Angel.
But it is amazing how you and I ever got together. The Quaker from Carmel and the Angel from Oakland.
Rules have always been a bugaboo for me, and I think that's one of the places Mylan and I probably, in a very 60s fashion, connected.
Very soon after the wedding, the musicians made their traditional musical walk to the stage. Whales frolicked off the coast. People in fantastic homemade clothes spilled all over the lawn. And the musicians were up there mixing it up, trying one another's songs, and just improvising.
Just easier times, I think. It was, again, the competition level and the stakes weren't as high. It was youthful. It was the beginning of the cultural music revolution, particularly in the Bay Area.
Within 3 years, there were no more Big Sur festivals. Mama Cass was dead, and Mimi and Mylan divorced.
For me, when I look back, I'm grateful that I survived and lived through it, and I'm still learning and still growing and still don't feel that I found out who I am and who I want to be when I grow up.
Times changed. Loose, easy gatherings like the Big Sur folk festivals became things of the past. But the music never stopped.
But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? La da da da, la da da.